ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानं दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणेश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. We will commence Friday's evening Atma Vichara session by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham. We've been reading from the book Ramana Answers, Self-Enquiry 1900 to 1950, a compilation of all the question and answers on the subject matter of Atma Vichara by our founder president Sri A.R. Natarajanji. After reading the question and answer, we will contemplate on the answer given by Bhagavan by his grace, and after that we will have a 20 minutes Atma Vichara session, following which Akka will be talking on the same subject of Atma Vichara from the Ramana Gita, which is again a question and answer session from Ganapati Muni to Bhagavan, which has been captured in the form of the Ramana Gita. And the topic again in that is on Atma Vichara. In the series of questions that we have been looking, we have reached the question number 66, wherein the devotee asks the Bhagavan the following question: how shall we correlate the higher experience with the lower experience? I'll repeat. How shall we correlate the higher experience with the lower experience? Bhagavan says, there is only one experience. What are the worldly experience but those built up on the false I? Ask the most successful man of the world if he knows his self. He will say, no. What can anyone know without knowing the self? All worldly knowledge is built upon such a flimsy foundation. I repeat Bhagavan's answer to the question, how shall we correlate the higher experience with the lower experience? Bhagavan says, there is only one experience. What are the worldly experiences but those built on the false I? Ask the most successful man of the world if he knows his self. He will say, no. What can anyone know without knowing the self? All worldly knowledge is built upon such flimsy foundation. The questioner, like the sadhaka that we are, we keep always thinking that we are on a lower experience when we have sort of gone through the whole days of affairs dealing with the worldly things, and then we come perhaps to this Atma Vichara session, or probably we sit with a book and or we see a video connected to spirituality, and then we are looking for some sort of an higher experience compared to the one that we are having. And therefore, how to correlate all of this is being asked. And Bhagavan is saying, though questioning, is very beautifully giving an answer here. There is only one experience. So that is the only thing which can relate everything. That one experience which is there. So he answered very much to the question, how to correlate. Bhagavan said very clearly, there is only one experience. But because we are seeing all the experience with a mind of division, we think that some are lower experience, some are higher experience, and we are forgetting that one underlying current which is allowing all this experience, or which is always there when all the experiences are there. I could very much relate to that, but I am not relating to that. I am only relating to the actual experience, which may be very gross, like a worldly experience, or maybe very subtle, like a mental experience, such as emotion or something like that. So I'm always outward turned, and I am looking at the experience, but not looking at the light with which all these experiences are being experienced. That is the most important thing. I could have given reality to that light, but I am not ready to give the reality to that light. I am looking to give reality to that experience. I want to believe that to be more real than the light which makes me recognize that experience. This is sort of a paradox for all of us. Why do we do that? I don't know, until Bhagavan came and told us that there is this light, this truth, because of which everything else appears to be true. And it is always there. And instead of looking at that, we are always looking at the actual gross or subtle experience, the outward turned experience, giving it a lot of reality. And whatever, let's say if the emotional thought is of sorrow, we are like, I am in real sorrow. And then that sorrow thought is there for an hour or two, and then something else comes in its place. Or I forget that sorrowful thought. Now I am normal. I mean, we don't really question, why am I really doing this? Why am I constantly giving reality to something outside, which is always changing, and not giving reality to that which is always there, which is myself? Or we don't even go and try to look at that. We take it for granted. As I said last week, we take that reality for so much for granted. But all these experiences seems to be a lot of importance. And Bhagavan goes on to say that they are all phantom experience. They are not real. They are only imaginary. And he makes it see it that the grace has revealed that it is imaginary. In the deep sleep, there was none of this experience. Even if I was so sorrowful, Once I went into the sleep, there is not even a trace of that sorrowness. There is not even a trace of the world in which I experienced that sorrowness. And there is not even I who was sorrowful. None of them are there. There is absolutely no trace of it. And that light which revealed the sorrowness, in which we can see the sorrowness, in which we can see the I who is experiencing the sorrowness, in which we can experience the world, is there in the deep sleep also, revealing that none of them are there. And that substantive truth is there in every experience, every moment of our experience, it is there. It is not something that I will experience only in the waking state. It is there even in the deep sleep when we are experiencing. It is there in the dream. It is the only thing which is there. And yet, that is the only reality which is there. And we don't want to give it a reality. We want to give reality to the experience and further classify something as higher experience and some as lower experience, and then be caught with it and feel miserable. We need to question, why are we doing it? What fun are we getting out of this? It is very important for us to inquire. Therefore, Bhagavan is saying, what are the worldly experience, but those built on the false I? It is all that phantom thing. We are given a reality to something which is not there, and therefore, and taking it so real. And if you ask the most successful man, I have been doing business now for last 20 years, and there could, when I looked at the website, they say when they say list of the people who are successful, they say people who have made business and made a lot of money, they are the first who come in the list of success. And then there comes some people who have done in the area of physics, some who have done in the area of art. There are many things, but the first priority is given to those people who have made, they are called the successful ones who have made a lot of money. But Bhagavan is saying, what is that success? It is another idea which we are holding on to, and we have forgotten to attend to our own reality by holding on to that, by thinking that if I make money, if I am going to get even more richer than what I am today, then the people around me is going to look at me. And what are they looking at? They are giving reality to my success in finance or in the business area. And what are they feeding? They are also helping me feed that unreal to be more real. They are just telling, oh, sir, you are a successful CEO, you have done very well, what a great success you have, you've taken company from this to this and all of that. And what am I feeling? I have done all of that, and therefore I am relating to that. And what am I missing in this whole act? I am missing the substratum, and I am holding on to that flimsy. Bhagavan says it is all built on this flimsy foundation. I am holding on to it. The same people may come back and tell me tomorrow, if something goes wrong, that, oh, it's your decision because of which something went wrong, and you are responsible for it. And then I am like really searching for what I did wrong or what, and I could be very much upset. So this whole foundation on which both this success and then tomorrow's failure are built is on that flimsy idea, on the flimsy concept of I, which is a phantom thing. And what Bhagavan says for all of us, which is very, very important to recognize, is we can only let go that false things. We cannot get the truth. Truth is already there. The self is already there. The only thing we can let go is all that phantom ideas. And yet we would like to be established in the phantom idea and then do the sadhana and then recognize the truth. Like, I want to be this body, I want to be this Dilip, and yet realize the self. And I am not ready to let go this phantom idea, this body idea, this identification that I am a CEO or I am a sadhaka or any of these things for that matter. Everything is just a flimsy idea, and I'm not ready to let go. I want to be that and then experience the truth. And Bhagavan is going on saying, let go all this false idea. Truth shines automatically. There is nothing, when you don't overlap these false ideas on the truth, then the truth alone will remain. If you don't give reality to any of them, if you are so keen to get back to the self, just don't hold on to any of these things which are only false things. Just let them go and only go for that reality, that truth which is there, no matter what is the environment of waking, dream, or sleep. Whether the environment is any of this, that truth is there. If we go for that, Bhagavan says and don't let go all these false impressions that we put on top of it. If we just let go, everything, if we can just let go, recognizing that it's a false impression, then the truth will shine automatically because that alone is there. Such is the practice Bhagavan asks us. And is that practice enough? Yes, practice is one step towards that. At least we recognize what is the truth and we keep working towards it. But it is the grace which makes us transcend it. It may look very real. I may say that I will not give reality to any of this, anything anymore. At next moment, even that thought that I will not give reality to anything anymore, we are given reality to it. We will not recognize that. And therefore, we may be caught again in that web of loop, in that loop. So grace is very important. And when grace makes that transition, I remember reading Sadhu Om Swami saying, I have told this mind, don't give reality to this illusion umpteen number of times. But Bhagavan, if you tell it once, I know that it will transcend. So that we have to know. But Bhagavan says, it is vouchsafed for those who put practice. That grace is vouchsafed for those who put practice. So the only job that comes to us is recognizing that reality is there and all of this is flimsy illusion, and we should put practice to get back to that, and grace will manifest. In fact, even the practice is a part of the grace. As Venkateshji was reading in the morning satsang, if one comes to Tiruvannamalai by taking a train, by taking an auto and everything, and Bhagavan asks, you say that you have moved from place A to Tiruvannamalai, but actually what did you do? It is the auto which brought you, which is the train which you brought you. It's like that. We just need to be what the Master asks us to do. It is that grace which makes it all happen. But we need to be accepting the teaching of the Master and be with it. That is the importance that we need to do. So the immense grace of Bhagavan with which alone we have come to this direct path of Atma Vichara, holding on to that very grace and praying to that gaze to give us that steadfastness to always relate with that reality and to remain abiding in that reality, and to which Bhagavan has given this Atma Vichara, in which he makes us recognize all this illusion which comes in the form of a thought and asks us to diligently inquire whom is this thought and thereupon recognize that it is for me, which is the substrating illusion on which everything else is built. And then by inquiring who am I, when we try to go to the source of the I, when we find the reality of the I, what do I really call as I? When we go to that source, then with the grace of that master, we get in touch with that reality. And Bhagavan says, by repeatedly questioning thus, and when we keep repeatedly getting back to the self that we are, then the mind will gain enough strength to remain at the source. With the immense grace of Bhagavan, let us do Atma Vichara for the next 20 minutes.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of Ramana, the self manifest as Ramana, we have been able to practice self-inquiry for some time, and basically the wonder, the magic of self-inquiry has entered our lives through Bhagavan, and we are able to do some meditation on self-inquiry as taught to us by Bhagavan. We have been meditating on the verses of Ramana Gita, the questions and answers during Bhagavan's stay at Virupaksha cave and at Skandashramam, recorded by Ganapati Muni. This is later from 1912, 1913 onwards, and these are recorded by Ganapati Muni in Sanskrit. And Ganapati Muni had asked 6 questions to Bhagavan, and out of those 6 questions, we are dwelling on Bhagavan's answer to the 4th question. To the 3rd question, basically, how does one recognize that one is liberated? How does one come to know that all bondage has gone away and that one has attained the fullness of knowledge? This was the 3rd question. In the first 2 questions, Muni had asked about the need for whether the manana alone is enough, whether study of scriptures alone is enough, and Bhagavan had answered that it is important to practice self-abidance, and that self-abidance alone will lead to liberation. Then Bhagavan is answering the 3rd question of the Muni: how does one know that one has attained jnana? Bhagavan says, Nirvasanena maunena sthirayam sahajasthitav jnani jnaninam atmanam nissandeha samarthayet. By that silence in which there is no trace of any vasana, there is no rising of any duality whatsoever. So what is the primary vasana based on which all other vasanas come? That is the thought, I am the body. That is the basis from which all other tendencies arise. Recently also in the Satsangh on Anubandham, we were dwelling on that incident where a visitor comes to Ramanasramam and he is telling Bhagavan about the methods followed in their ashram, in the ashram from which he is coming. And he says that our Guru asks us to daily chant certain number of times of japa and offer the fruits to him. Then at that time Muruganar enters the hall and Bhagavan says, oh, do you know this is a very interesting practice in their ashram? The Guru asks them to chant a certain number of japas every day. The mantra is chanted and the fruits of the mantra are all offered to the Guru. It is like allowing the disciples to keep the capital but asking them to give away all the interest. And Muruganar Swami says with lot of emotion, he would always get, when he was talking about Bhagavan, he would get very emotional, very passionate about what he was saying. And his face would all become flushed. And he had said, their Guru is far better than our Guru. Because their Guru allows them to keep the capital. Our Guru finishes the capital also without the trace. So that I thought is annihilated. Mano Nasha, Bhagavan says. If the mind is temporarily in subsidence, layagatam punarbhavati, it comes again, the mind rises again. If it is merely in a state of subsidence. So one understands, if it rises again, that the nirvasana mauna has not happened. And this is, it functions by dividing. The first division which happens is the division between I and the other. And an identification with the other. Who is the primary other? The primary other is the image of the body with which I identify. The body is not I myself. We all know this because we say my body. We experience our body and we fail to experience the body, as Dilip was reminding us in the first part of today's satsang. We fail to experience the body in deep sleep. Again and again, Bhagavan gives us this example. So the body is something which I know, but with which I am so closely identified that I am not able to disentangle myself from it. By force of habit, I have taken it to be I myself, but it is the first other. And thereafter, there are so many others. There is this division. And the moment a division starts, then what happens is there are some things which are positive and some things which are negative. I see pluses and minuses. I see good and bad. I see right and wrong. And the more I see right and wrong, the more I see good and bad, the more I become established in this division. So, for getting to that nirvasana mauna, for getting to that state where there is all the vasanas are annihilated, Bhagavan gives us the method of asking, who am I? Questioning the very basis of this division, questioning the very one who is creating this division, this duality, and thereby to annihilate that sense of difference altogether. And this is, as Bhagavan has told us in the earlier verse, he says, what happens intermittently during practice. When it becomes steady, it is called jnana. That means when one practices self-inquiry, one experiences the silence intermittently, and then later one becomes steady in that experience. That which Bhagavan in today's answer called the only experience, the experience of the mauna of the self, the silence of the self, in which there are no divisions. And this answer of Bhagavan, it merges into the next answer to the fourth question, wherein Muni had asked, how does one recognize another jnani? One is, how does one recognize that one has attained jnana? If one attains jnana, then there is no question of recognizing another jnani. There is no question of recognizing another. One will be in the nirvasana mauna. Then no question would arise. But before that, all of us have this curiosity, or many of us have the curiosity to know whether someone else is a jnani or not. As much as we want jnana, we also want to find out whether others have jnana. And we want to know this maybe for several reasons. One, maybe we want to pay respect to that person who has jnana. We want to associate with the person who has got jnana. We want to derive the benefit of the person who has got jnana. Now, what is Bhagavan's answer to the hallmark of a jnani? He says, Sarva Bhuta Samatvena Lingena Jnana Muhyatam. The linga, the symbol, the hallmark of a jnani is Sarva Bhuta Samatva, the equality towards all beings. Now we can see it clearly in Bhagavan's life. There is this incident where one lady from outside of India, I do not remember her name, but she could be, maybe it was Mercedes de Acosta, but she asked Bhagavan, you say there is only one consciousness, but then do you mean to say that you and I and my servant are all one and the same? And then Bhagavan answered, in one consciousness, I, you, your servant, and the monkeys outside the window are all one and the same. Then she was surprised and she said, the monkeys are also one and the same. They are a different species altogether. So, even while thinking of one consciousness, she is not able to accept, we are not able to accept that even all the species can be included in that one consciousness. We can somewhere think that, okay, all human beings are equal. Even that she was finding it difficult. That's what she was expressing to him. And Bhagavan said, yes, in one consciousness, all are one. All are one. All are included in that consciousness. Sarva Bhuta Samatva. Sarva. So there are no divisions at all of any kind. And we find that in every moment becoming manifest in Bhagavan's life. Whenever Bhagavan is seen interacting at the manifest level, it is always with this equality. Everything, food is shared equally with all, including the animal mates. Everything is equal, always for Bhagavan, even in the manifestation. And that Sarva Bhuta Samatva, it is by hearing about it, yes, we see it in Bhagavan and we may say it's wonderful. But we cannot stop there. We have to try to imbibe it. Because Bhagavan has said, what happens intermittently during Abhyasa becomes steady when Jnana comes. So how do we practice the Sarva Bhuta Samatva? How do we practice it? Bhagavan has advocated it even in Upadesha Saram. Ashtamurti Bhrit Deva Pujanam. He says, look at all the eightfold manifestations of the Supreme as Supreme. This is the Supreme alone. Now, externally, it is very difficult for us to practice this. So, Bhagavan gives us a slightly easier step towards it. And that he gives us internally. Internally, in our self-inquiry, he first asks us to understand that all the experiences that we have, whether it is of something which we like or something which we dislike, something we are afraid of or something which we are fond of, whether it is sorrow or joy or fear or anger, within us, everything is only a thought. Everything is a thought, says Bhagavan. So within us, we can first begin to practice to understand that Sarvabhuta Samatva. All the external manifestation in which we perceive so many differences, which we say good and bad, etc., etc., wanted, unwanted, desirable, undesirable, all that within us is primarily experienced by us in the form of thought. Something which is undesirable, which I say is undesirable, is in my mind. There is a thought that this is undesirable. And something which I say is desirable, there is in my mind a thought that this is desirable. Something which I'm afraid of, there is in my mind a thought, I am afraid of this. And something which I am fond of, there is in my mind the thought, I am fond of this. Now, within us, Bhagavan says, we can recognize that all these are only thoughts. There is no difference between the thought of fear and the thought of love, the thought of sorrow and the thought of joy. All are only thoughts. And when we recognize that all are thoughts and thereby become ready to surrender every thought by asking, for whom is this thought? It is my thought only, and who am I? Then one gets into that vasana which rose, that vasana gets dissolved by the samatva which Bhagavan has taught us, that sarva bhuta samatva, to begin with, within ourselves. What happens within us gradually becomes manifest externally as well, because actually what is happening within us only is manifest outside. So Bhagavan, in giving us the hallmark of a jnani, is also giving us the method to practice to reach that point of jnana, that point of steadiness. And in this answer, he is talking about the beautiful state of Sarvabhuta Samatva, recognizing that all is one in that one consciousness. And when we turn inwards and recognize that all are thoughts and that all are actually stemming from that single source, that one consciousness, because of which they are all one, they are not different from each other. Gradually, that consciousness will draw us into itself because of its nature being grace, the fullness of grace, and because of which it is actually ever revealing itself to us. But we are not aware of it because of our mind moving with the tendencies, moving into the world of divisions. And to cut across all these divisions, we can repeatedly try to practice the simple method of self-inquiry which Bhagavan has given us. Simply inquire again and again, for whom is this thought? After all, everything is only a thought. For whom is this thought? This thought is for me, but who am I? And thereby get to the root vasana, to question the root vasana and allow that also to subside, to keep subsiding every time it rises, until by that fullness, the ripeness of the moment of grace, it will rise no more. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Dilip, will you say the prayer?
Yes, Akka. Apara Satchit Sukhavarirashi Yasyor Mimat सर्वत्र भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरम् चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि